My name is Major Mandisa Mfeka, and I am a pilot within the South African Air Force. I didn't even know that it was possible for me to become a pilot. I was 16 years old when I discovered the South African Air Force, and I knew then that I had the capability to pursue this career. Initially, there was a bit of hesitation. I remember finding my mom. Her response was like, the automatic thing is to wonder about this young girl who wants to go into this grueling environment. It's so important not to be confined by stereotypes because they can miss so much. You want to see yourself as a specialist. You want to see yourself as somebody who can execute the job, regardless of gender. Because the moment you step into the aircraft, it doesn't matter whether it's a female voice or a male voice. I wanted to see myself wearing those wings more than anything. In developing myself and making sure that I made the grade, a boundary was broken. I found the courage to be brave by listening to my inner being, that desire to see yourself excel. That will push you to get where you need to be. Don't let anyone tell you that you cannot. Your capacity is not something that is determined by where you come from. Your capacity is something that you set for yourself. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to Ivana for affording us the platform. I'm just going to start with a bit of an appetizer because I'm a little bit awkward sometimes. I don't know if you can hear this. I'm just going to turn off as we're doing tune music. If there are any disturbances or if you would like to ask a question, please feel free. I would like to make this as interactive as possible rather than having me just talk. And if you get bored, pick up a hand and ask a question. I'm really quite open actually because I'm just going to be sharing some of my experiences and also maybe a few insights that have come or helped along the way to get us to where we are right now. And for those who don't know, I'm just going to play a little video and then I can The first time where I came across aviation was definitely when I was 5 or 6 years old, when my grandmother and my mother used to take us to Virginia Airport to watch the air shows. At that time, they couldn't afford to buy the tickets for us to go in. We would enjoy the show from, you know, the fence, but we could definitely appreciate all that was happening. And at that time, I didn't know that this career was even possible for me. The first time I realized that I could actually join the Air Force and
It's just frozen a little bit.
Okay, no problem.
And become a pilot was when I was 16, doing research about careers in maths and science. And I remember coming across the article by the South African Air Force, you know, this little pamphlet where they're advertising the requirements to become a pilot and a navigator, and I looked at them and I was like, oh my God! That moment I knew that I wanted to serve the Defense Force, and I knew I wanted to be an Air Force pilot, you know. And we're here today because of the preparations for the inauguration of the president. We're very, very excited, definitely, and our role definitely is to participate in the fly past, to showcase the capability of the South African Air Force, and also it's a way for us to salute the new Commander-in-Chief. So we're very, very excited. The amazing thing actually about the South African Air Force is that we have programs for youngsters. The Young Falcons, definitely here in Pretoria, we have those programs that they can come and interact with the aviation industry, learn about flying, learn about the careers that we have within the Air Force, not only limited to pilots and navigators, air traffic controllers, mission controllers, ground crew, technicians. So they get to come in and interact with us, and they don't have to feel sidelined because of their upbringing. You know, where you come from does not determine your capacity. Your capacity is something that you set for yourself. The first time.
Okay, Okay, hi everyone. Happy Heritage Day, otherwise known as National Bride Day. And that is why I am culturally clad today. We're just observing.
I didn't know it was Happy Heritage Day.
Yes. Yes, so in South Africa, it is Heritage Day for us. And I think it's such a crucial moment, not only for South Africans, but for everyone and women in general, or the population at large, for us to observe our roots. I'm just going to take a moment just to pay homage, because we are where we are because of those who have shaped our lineage. We are where we are because of the blessings that came before us. And the reason why I put up the baobab tree, because it's such a strong African emblem of strength and wisdom. And also it goes on to, it's actually a good metaphor for a practice that I try to employ daily, and that is the practice of meditation. So some days we can experience challenges, and some days we want to celebrate victories. And by meditating, we visualize ourselves as the tree. You can go outside and plant your feet in the ground, and what happens is that you then draw the nourishment from the roots up into your being, and then you're able to contribute positive energy, but also you're able to let go of negative energy by dispelling it through the roots. So the roots is actually a very important thing, not only to people, but to know where we come from, and also to receive the blessings and the gifts. So that is something that I really felt that I needed to share with everyone, and also just to celebrate our beautiful, beautiful country and our lineage. Okay, a little bit of background. So the little video that you saw, I am a Hawk Mark 120 pilot. I have been in the South African Air Force for 12 years. I received my wings in 2011 and received the qualification of Hawk Commander in 2018. Since then, I've also been doing some training to become operational, and that basically includes using our aircraft platform as a weapon instead of just using it as a vehicle or as a transportation device. So that comes with a lot of demand, a lot of challenges, but also it meant that I was the first Black female to come into this space. There is actually another female in the combat line already, Colonel Constable, Catherine Constable. She was the first female to come here, and she's grip and qualified, and she's an instructor. So we're really quite inspired by her, and as a result, we're able to enjoy some of the benefits in this field because of the doors that she has opened. And as such, the baton has now been handed over to me, and I hope to share it with other members who are interested in aviation. And by that, I mean that the Wingspan platform, my social media platform, is something that I use for outreach, for empowerment, for joining and sharing of ideas, and for presentations like here, where I'm able to meet some really beautiful and inspiring women, so that we can share ideas, and also just to explore some of the challenges that one may see in aviation. Okay, so I do that through personal development. I'm very passionate about personal development, mentorship, and public speaking. Okay, so in essence, you can call me a G.I. Jane wannabe. I mean, who wouldn't be inspired by this remarkable woman? You know, she went out there and she was a pioneer. She went into the space, and she was the first one who wanted to qualify as the naval or maritime operations officer. And through her journey, we got to see some of the challenges that women face, some of the challenges that we are, or obstacles that can stand before us because of merely of our virtues. The other thing also is that as women, sometimes, depending on where you're coming from, especially for us in an African context, we're generally socialized to be less assertive, to be less domineering, to be more subservient. I mean, I know in our traditional context, I love my culture, and the way that I've been brought up, I try to draw the strengths of it, but then we can also admit that there are some limitations that come with the way that we have been brought up. We're always, not always, but we're sometimes programmed to be a beta individual. Beta individual meaning that this is somebody who will look to be in the supporting role rather than the alpha type. So actually the reason I think why this role is so celebrated, or why women in aviation, women in the military are celebrated, is because this is a traditionally alpha type role where you have to use those qualities that aren't usually available, to be assertive, to be owning and taking up space, to speak up and not just to be seen, which is something that we definitely have to celebrate. So one thing that I really love, a quote that came out of that movie, is, "I never saw a wild thing feel sorry for itself. A bird will fall frozen dead from a bough without ever having felt sorry for itself." And this quote actually really resonates with me because, I mean, we know some people who have gone through military training. The challenges are not just the physical aspect. There's the emotional aspect as well. I think as a woman, because we're more in touch with our emotional being, it's the first thing that gets attacked. It's the first thing that is viewed as being, a vulnerability that is viewed as being a weakness. And actually, in truth, that emotional part allows us to be empathetic. And in a space where you're expected to be a leader, if you understand your people, then you're able to engage with them. But also, if you're able to stand up and take the pain, then you're able to translate it. Like I mentioned earlier with the roots and the tree, you're able to take that negativity, translate it, and recycle it into something positive. So I think that is the challenge for women in aviation and women in leadership. It's not something that's only unique to the military. It's not something that's only unique to aviation, but women in professional environments can take in, is that your pains are actually something that you should take in as gifts, because you are able to translate it and to turn it into something positive, but also you're able to transform it and create something new. And that is, I guess, also the blessing of the pioneer. They're able to create something unseen, something new. But the challenge also with that is that if you're not well grounded, you can then suffer from challenging or limiting beliefs. What that means is that, and I know that women are generally more guilty of this, or more women actually suffer from this, and that is imposter syndrome. What imposter syndrome is where you achieve something, acquire certain skills, but because of a certain lack of self-belief, you're not able to stand up and say, hey, yes, I did this. I worked this hard, and I am standing here in front of you, and I've achieved this thing. Let's celebrate. I think men are more likely to do that. The moment they walk into the room, they want to own space. I mean, we even know the way that they sit, the man spread. I want to take up space. I want to appear bigger than what I am. It's the dominance, it's the assertiveness. But as women, because of how we've been socialized, those limiting beliefs make us feel as imposters, even when we're professionals and have achieved amazing things. So it definitely has to come with a change of mindset, recognizing in yourself that you worked for this, recognize that you learned, and also understanding that your mistakes does not mean that you're not able to achieve. I mean, one story that I'd like to share, and I think it was a really pivotal moment in my life, was when I was doing pupil pilots course. And with part of our training is we have different phases. The first one is general flying, then instrument flying, and once we've completed instrument flying, then we either go to navigation or closed formation flying. So for me, there was the closed formation flying, something that you have never seen. And also because of the way, some people may grow up with different backgrounds, you may not have played with things that create a spatial cognition. So now that became something crucial for me to understand when we're doing closed formation flying, because we're moving close relative to another aircraft, and you have to now change the way in which you fly. So the reason why I'm mentioning this, or the pivot that came from that experience, was we were given 4 sorties, and after that they thought that we should be capable enough to take the aircraft solo. unfortunately, on my solo check, I flew with someone, and what happened is that I could feel him on the controls more than what I was flying. That little act was actually creating an element of doubt of whether or not I'm actually able to take this aircraft solo and fly it really close relative to another aircraft. So when I landed back, I was quite conflicted. Now, do I speak up and say that I'm unhappy with the way that the solo check happened because I didn't feel like I was on the controls? Or do I just allow this man to put a red entry into my training file and then possibly take my career away from me? So at that stage, there was a little bit of inner knowing that said to me, I have to speak up and say that I'm unhappy with the way things happen. Now, obviously, when you do that, there is a bit of a mistake that can happen, or a bit of a dissonance that can occur. You are speaking your mind and voicing that there is a challenge in the cockpit where I felt that something wasn't conducted correctly. The individual, if they're mature enough, were to take that as a communication, but took it as a personal attack. Now that is it's a big thing, because now it seems as though I'm being defiant, especially in a military space where if you're a CO, candidate officer, you're somebody who's quite junior, and you are not actually allowed to speak up. But when it comes to something as crucial as your training, that you have to challenge those beliefs in you and say, hey, if I don't speak up, I am going to lose what I came here for. So I did speak up, and it came with a review, and gratefully it was positive. The outcome was positive. But for me, that was also a learning moment to say, in our culture, we have something called, the saying says, which basically means that if you don't cry, if the baby doesn't cry on the swaddle, it dies in the swaddle. So if you're suffocating and you don't speak up, you die in the swaddle. So that's what limiting beliefs can manifest themselves as in our lives. They can actually manifest themselves as further challenges. They can manifest themselves as missed opportunities. They can manifest themselves as being overlooked for a position or overlooked for something that you desire. So being grounded and standing in your truth actually helps to combat those things, but it really starts from within. But also you're able to speak up and ask for help if you're feeling that you're lacking or need an extra hand. That's the beauty of us, is that we're eventually in our spaces, in our workspaces, we're a small community. So what I want to say is that you should have an unwavering self-belief in order to navigate your spaces. Challenges are a gift that force us to search for a new center of gravity. Don't find them, just find a new way to stand. You know, that is such a beautiful quote by Oprah Winfrey. Obviously, we're, as aviators, we're always thinking about center of gravity. Where is it located? Because if it's in the wrong position, I'm going to stall that aircraft and not land back. So it's the same thing. Our center of gravity actually determines how we navigate this world, what energy we bring into spaces. So if we're grounded and we have that unwavering self-belief, then we're able to tackle challenges head on, to not only be the beta individual, but even if you are a beta, if you're an omega, if you're conducting yourself authentically and you're giving that gift of you, then you're doing well. You're doing what is expected of you. This woman that is in the presentation, her name is Lin Beifong. My nerdy side is coming out now. She is from this animated series that I watched a few years ago. It's called Avatar: The Last Airbender, but this one is the Book of Korra. And the reason I put Lin Beifong here is because when Lin Beifong represents an archetype that I aspire to become like. Lin Beifong, if you know the background of the Avatar, the people in the series are able to master their chi, and in mastering their chi, and that's your inner energy, they're able to move the elements. So there are 4 types of elements that were traditionally able to be moved. It was either water, it was air, fire, or earth. But what came through is that there was a recognizing by the earthbenders that metal has earth elements inside of it. And by focusing their chi, they were able to move the elements within the metal, and then they became metal benders. So Lin Beifong is the first generation of metal benders, and she is a pioneer in this space. But not only that, she's the chief of police. This, you know, so she's a public servant, and she leads from the heart. What I loved about Lin is that she's not afraid to set clear boundaries. She's assertive, and she can come across as being unapproachable. I think that's one of the challenges that come with being a female and being assertive and speaking your mind, is that immediately you're either perceived as being unapproachable, or you attract a whole lot of infamous words that you can be labeled as. But that never stopped what she was standing for. She was there to lead, and she was able to do it by being, you know, unique, different, strong. And I really do, I'm very encouraged by that. And the other thing was that this type of series didn't have a protagonist in the traditional sense. I think sometimes, depending on what type of material we engage, we can still continue to be socialized by patriarchal systems, but then sometimes you come across something new where there is a matriarchal system, where leaders are strong, where leaders are powerful, but they're also beautiful, you know? So there isn't a need to choose between a female virtue and being competent or excellent in your field. The two can work synergistically, and you can even bring in more elements. You don't only have to be scientific, you can bring creativity into it. I think sometimes we have this challenge of compartmentalizing our gifts and trying to make them a little bit more palatable to the spaces that we're in. That actually really doesn't serve us. So we have to stand in that gift of ours. So recognize that you are part of a team. You're a part of your team. In your community, you're a part of the team. As combat pilots, I think what's generally pushed across is that combat pilots are loners. Combat pilots are people who stick to themselves, and they're introverted. You only command your aircraft, and that is it. No, with us, actually, we're quite dynamic. We're part of a team, even though that when I get into my aircraft, I'm in command of my aircraft, and I'm also in command of the mission. Well, depending on whether I have a flight lead or a pilot and attack instructor, then we're in command. But more than that, as a pilot, I think it's sort of like being part of an elite sports team, sort of like Formula One driving, where you have the ground crews coming through and making sure that the wheels are fit in, the bearings, the lock nuts are all tightened up so that the driver can get inside and win the race. The same thing happens with aviation. Our ground crew is part of our team. They prepare the aircraft for us, they service them for us. And then when we get into the aircraft, the ATCs are giving us clearances. And then when we're out into the airspace, we're speaking to mission controllers, and he's giving me bearing and guidance and what I need to do in order to intercept that bandit or bogey or engage that enemy force. So being part of a team doesn't mean that you need to relinquish that individuality. Being part of a team means standing more in your individuality, so you have something unique to contribute to that space. I mean, if we're all supposed to be the same, I think that we would be created like that. But every one of us, we're given a little mission, a little purpose that says, hey, your energy is going to express itself this way in this world because of the work that you're supposed to do. So recognizing that you're part of a team. We love being part of the team. It's challenging though sometimes because we have different personalities that come into things. I think for me, coming into Mercado, I also had that feeling that because of what I had perceived fighter pilots to be, I started to change or tweak certain aspects of my personality in order to fit in. So I would be overly brash in order to appear assertive, or be angry when I'm standing in the briefing because I must look like I'm strong, you know. But over time, you start to let go of that because you realize that it doesn't serve what you're able to do. Whether you come and you stand and you're strong and you're quiet, at the end of the day, when you do your work, it is the work that speaks for itself. And I think that's what most people actually appreciate. And that's what I think the team appreciates, is that you're a reliable force that cares about the environments, that cares about the work you're doing and what you're contributing. Okay. And then be resilient. That little picture in the top corner is me in 2017 when I was doing Fittest Soldier. I know I don't look like the fittest soldier there. But that person who is suffering there in the top left corner is the person who has now created this one that you're seeing before you. And I know that life, and this is not only unique to aviation and it's not unique to being in the military, but life has a lot of challenges. And some of them we've already touched on: being assertive, being true to yourself, being strong. For me here, the challenge was to become strong. And I mean that in the physical aspect, or the physical elements. The reason for that was I didn't want to give my virtues, I didn't want them to be the excuse of why people can perceive a certain failure. I didn't want to walk into the aircraft and when it's time to do a certain maneuver to feel physically incapable because of who I am. So that meant that there had to be a shift in who I was physically, just for myself. I don't think that everyone needs to do it, but it's something that I felt that I needed to do for myself. And the challenge there was when it got ugly, I had to keep going. When there were bruises, I had to keep going. When there were blisters and people were saying that the finish line is at 25 kilometers and you get to 25 kilometers and the guy is not there and you still have to walk another 2 kilometers to get to 27, it means carrying on. So I think that is the challenge for the female body, is that in our spaces, we still having to push back boundaries that we attract. We're still having to navigate, not only for ourselves, but also to educate people who are dealing with this new type of woman. New, and I say new because women have been strong through the centuries. It's just that the elements wouldn't allow that to be seen. So now that women are actually empowered, women are vocal, women are strong, it's the new woman that the man has to learn how to work with. We have issues of gender-based violence. We have issues of sexual harassment in the workplace. We have issues of undermining or insubordinance because you're a female person. All of that is actually a challenge that the female body still has to navigate. But by speaking out, connecting with other women, we're actually able to grow past that. And it needs a resilience. Every time you hit a new challenge, that threshold of resilience is pushed further back, just like the muscle. Every time you work the muscle, it gets tired, it breaks a little bit, then it repairs itself, and then you're able to grow a new muscle and become even stronger. The same with resilience. Stand on your ground, stand in your truth, and then don't be afraid to go against the grain. Success does not come from the comfort zone. We have to embrace the unconventional. Just because you have not seen something, just because you have not witnessed to it, does not mean that it is not possible. It means that if that inner self that is asking you to engage in a certain material is generally an intuitive guidance of what needs to come next. So don't be afraid if everyone is going left and you want to go right, or everyone's going up and you want to go down. That is the beauty of it. That's the beauty of exploration. It's the creative elements and the gifts. And that's when we actually discover the amazing, amazing treasures that we have. So to end off, I would just like to say that claim your strength, own your space. We're saying no to imposter syndrome. We're motivating, we're celebrating each other as women. We're celebrating our heritage, we're celebrating our roots, because through that, then we're able to move communities forward and also to change our workspace so that we can have more female pilots, more combat pilots, more ground crew, you know, whatever it is, more artists and more designers, things that are innovative, that's appealing to science and technology. I mean, I think the girl problem also sometimes is the type of toys that we grow up playing. As much as they can be feminine, they actually shape the type of people we become. And what we do is that we love to give the boys the cars, we like to give the boys the airplanes, and we like to give the girls the dolls. And I think that's why the emotional and the empathetic side of women comes so intuitively, is because of how we grew up. But the challenge then now is that if we're looking for more women in STEM, is that we need to start implementing a playing space that builds spatial cognition. Because when, for instance, in my field, we're in the airspace. Aircraft are moving relative to each other. They're pitching and rolling. They're trying to get into certain parameters in order to employ weapons. That thing you have to conceptualize and visualize before you do it. If you're not developed in that way, it can be a massive challenge, and it can come across as though that women cannot do that, but it's not true. It's just that little muscle of cognition hasn't been developed yet, and it does exist, and it is capable of being grown. So we really need to reevaluate that as women. Yes, and then once you've tasted flight, you will walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward, for there you have been, and there you will long to return. Leonardo da Vinci. And I think that's really quite beautiful. This is just a little metaphor for love of flight and for aviation. That we all share, I'm sure. Even if you're a passenger, I'm sure you do appreciate that part where you're getting airborne and you can feel your feet and your seat sometimes lifting from the ground. So with that, I would actually really just like to say thank you very much to Ivana for inviting me onto this platform. I would like to encourage that more women break the boundaries and let go of self-limiting beliefs, to own your truth, to claim the spaces, and to fight that really annoying imposter syndrome. No, we're saying no to that. So with that, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mandisa. Thank you very much. That was really wonderful. Great presentation and so much information in there to take home with us. If anybody has questions, please do unmute yourselves and ask any questions you want to ask Mandisa.
Okay, can I have a question? I don't know how to raise my hand. I know you can do that, but I don't know how. But anyway, I'm speaking.
It's okay. It's just in the reaction, so you can talk. There's only a few of us. No worries.
All right. Okay. Cool. I think my question would be: so have you found that since you've sort of been like put in the forefront and everybody associates your face with the Air Force, you've sort of been getting more like female or girl children seeming more interested and more keen? And if maybe I guess maybe it's too early for the intake, but if that's sort of changing in terms of the people coming through, trying to join the Air Force and be fighter pilots. So have those interactions, like, have you seen a change in that since like you have sort of been seen as the face, like, you know, of like girl child that's possible? You know what I mean?
Yes. The really amazing thing about having, I think, a female person is that even the boys that thought they couldn't are coming through and asking questions, because the platform has sort of been opened up. The girls are asking questions about engineering, they're asking questions about science, they're asking questions about what subjects do I take in grade 9. I really want to do physics, but I'm sort of afraid because of these elements. So there is definitely a change, and I find that a lot of them on the Wingspanner platform, the Facebook page in particular, are engaging with it, and they're constantly asking about how can I join, how can I do this? I don't really want to go into the military, but I'm interested in flying and aviation. Can you direct me? And it's really part of the I think the blessing of being here in the space right now. I'm really grateful to be using it like that. And so yes, there are more women, girls. There are more girls, and actually there are boys who were afraid and thought that they couldn't, and they feel much easier or more at ease talking about their insecurities around wanting to pursue a career in aviation.
Anybody else?
Yes. Hi, Mandisa. Thank you very much. That was a really, really good presentation. And I think, a lot of us, our hearts are in the mentoring side of it. So there's a lot of good information there. And it sounds, around the world, it's the same about, not knowing it's an option, etc. There was a couple of points that I'm curious about from your experience going forward that you made. And one of them was, there was a woman, you said, I think constable, that was ahead of you.
Yes.
I think that we spend a lot of work in STEM in trying to attract people. But what I noticed is we would get girls through, but once they started entering the military or the companies, they would end up not having the support and leaving. So, how to formalize and not put so much pressure on the one person in front of you, but how to kind of create that environment where, once there is somebody that you encourage, people to reach out and mentor. And the other point, maybe along the same lines, is, you made the comment about having to take the pain and roll with it and turn it into a positive. And, this is something when I'm mentoring that I tell people, I said, I know there's political correctness. I know there's this and that, but when you're in an all male environment, you just have to roll in any environment. You just have to roll with it. But what I struggle with is trying to teach people at what point is it too much, and that they need to protect themselves as well, because I know what those limits are for me because of my level of confidence. But some of the women come back to me and they make a comment, they tell me what happened. Well, he took me into the office and he shut the door and he showed me a magazine, and I was like, oh my God, I said, you shouldn't have allowed that, but it's very difficult. So, you're going to have that bitchiness when you speak up, but how do you, that's what's frustrating for me is mentoring of how to set those limits for people. So I'm just wondering, how you found to do it, or what your, methods are in terms of dealing with those
pain points. Yes. The pressure of mentoring, I think one thing is that sometimes you have to find the candidate that is suitable. There are other women in my space. For instance, there was one who was the first female submariner, Jillian, in the Navy. And I remember that we were invited to a conference, and they wanted us to speak at the conference. And her concern was she's not quite comfortable with working or standing in front of people and talking. So for me, that part was like having to realize that if you are a person who has the gifts or who has the capacity to help with other people, then you have to do it. Not have to, but it's sort of like something that's innate and something that you would want to engage. The other thing is there are various ways in which we can mentor. I think now it's much better because these platforms are open to us. We're now able to do so via Zoom. We can reach out on social media. So that mentoring pressure can change or be tweaked into something that's a little bit more suitable to the individual. I do try my best to try and rally up different people so that they can be seen, because then I can share the workload sometimes. Sometimes it's not necessarily the air crew, maybe I'll grab a ground crew who is a female, or someone who's an avionic, and anytime that we're there, then they can share the story so that I can then pass on the baton a little bit, and then the pressure isn't always on me to be the one who speaks up and shares the story. The other thing is coming together in our field. What we try to do within the unit is we try and get all the ladies to come together, and we have sort of like it's sort of like a social, not socializing, but where we pick out any problems or challenges that can exist within the unit, so that if someone is experiencing something, then we can all just join arms and help them with a challenge, especially if it comes to something about gender-based violence or sexual harassment. For me, those are things that I do not tolerate within the workplace. So if I hear of something, then it's something that I act on very, very quickly, because I know that not everyone has the capacity to speak up. In our environments, as with the rank of a major, it means that I'm able to open or hold doors open for other people. And I do find that the lower ranking ladies, for instance, the lance corporals or whatever, who don't feel like they can speak up because of the pressure of the rank, then it's up to us to make it easier for others. So I think, yes, so that is the mentoring pressure. With regards to Colonel Constable, I find that what she's doing, because she's an instructor, so she's more qualified than I am, and she's at Langaban. And when I was there experiencing some challenges, she was the first one to come and take me into the corner and try and figure out what the problem was and try to do something about it. So I think that's the different elements. You get those who are more on-screen mentors, and then you get those who are at the back end of things and are helping more female pilots get through the lines without all of the hurdles that we have gone through. So that is the mentoring pressure. Then the question of rolling with the pain. That is a tough one, because there are times, I will admit, there are times where I have come home and I have cried. I have cried and kneeled to the ground because of the pain, because of not seeing a way out, because of feeling alone. It's really quite difficult. And then the other element was when I was in trouble coming into Makado, I looked up and I saw the hierarchy and I saw no one that I could reach out to, which was a big challenge. It meant that I had to actually look outside of my industry and see how other women, which is why I say that it's not only something that is limited to the military. You reach out to the other industries. You find that female engineers are also having a hard time speaking up in boardrooms and pushing their ideas because it's a traditional male role. So by pulling myself out of the military and going into conferences or seeing other women in leadership, I was able to then take a page out of the book and say, okay, this is how I'm going to bring this in. I'm going to focus on 1, 2, 3, because if my grades and my skills and everything is up, then they have nothing to pull me down on. When the time is right, I will be afforded the platform and I will then bring those curtains down. And it happened like that. So rolling with the pain, but also realizing that there are some things that we shouldn't be subjected to. There are some things that we shouldn't be experiencing, and we nip it in the bud. It ends with us. If we're the ones experiencing it, we make sure that it's much clearer for the women who are coming after us.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah, it's difficult, and I come from a family that taught me to speak up for myself, and I do that on a regular basis. Doesn't always end well, but I'm comfortable doing it. But it's interesting teaching girls, women who haven't come from that background, how to have confidence and how to speak up for themselves. And they have to find it themselves. But once they start on the path, it's difficult to say, well, don't let it get too far. When there's a situation, they find that they don't want to ruin it. So it's just, I always am interested to hear how other people kind of transfer that. But I think your point about, and I say this a lot, in companies, there aren't going to be any other females. And I tell them, it doesn't have to be a female. You just have to find somebody who will support you and give you a look back at yourself to make sure that you're not the problem, because that is sometimes the issue, that they're not, advocating for themselves or whatever. But I think that we have to try to do better in the mentoring side of thing about creating more of the professional networks higher up the chain, like our organizations we belong to, but supporting that for others. So, but thank you. That's good advice.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to say something?
Yes. Hello, Mandisa.
Hello.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Hi, Dad.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
It's great. It's great. In fact, I'm actually feeling goosebumps right now. What you went through.
Thanks.
I just want to say thank you very much for what you are doing for us. In fact, you are an inspiration to most of the kids right here in Durban. I just looked at one profile. One child was supposed to actually write about somebody who is an inspiration to her. In fact, I'm talking of a child who's in primary school. I was actually shocked when I saw the poster with all your pictures in the Air Force, and I was actually shocked. I said, oh, this child. So, girl, you are an inspiration to everyone. So keep it up. That's all I can say. And may God help you prosper in what you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Daddy Kids.
That's great. You definitely are a role model, not just in South Africa, throughout Africa. I see time and time again people saying things, posting things about you and articles, and it's not just, it's beyond South Africa, it's throughout Africa, and again, it's because there's not that many females in the Air Force or militaries in Africa. And I made a comment some time back where some countries don't even have airlines, let alone, small military groups and stuff like that. So you really are inspiring many out there. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody?
Mandisa. Sorry, Ivana.
No, go ahead.
Thank you for that talk. It was really great to hear. It's also great to see how you have taken on, the responsibility and, lifting this weight that you have on your shoulders, and for everyone to see. From where I'm watching you are setting a great example. It's great. And I always say that it's so important, to tell a girl child that she can be or do whatever she wants to be, but it makes such a big difference when she actually sees that. And even if it doesn't open that girl child's mind to a career in aviation, seeing you in that fighter jet will say, oh my gosh, she's there. Well, what else have I not thought about? That's what I always think of. What other careers are there that I've never even considered, or that I see boys doing, but maybe I could also do. So not just careers in aviation, but it definitely opens up a girl's mind to so many more possibilities. And I think, you've taken on the platform in a great way, and kudos to you and to many safe landings.
Thank you so much, Laura. It really means a lot to me because I keep saying this, but you're part of the inspiration of being a female pilot. And when we were at 15, I also learned a lot about the culture of the South African Air Force from seeing you and Zanele when you were learning how to fly. Well, I think you were qualified already, but Zanele was learning how to drop, how to hoist from the helicopter into the ocean and then pick somebody up. And after that, we went and landed on the beach and we shot 9mm pistols. I was just like, can women be more incredible right now? We're out here, we're flying and we're landing on the beach and also doing GI stuff. Are you kidding me? So really, I forgot my time at 15 Squadron, and I was deeply deeply, deeply inspired by you. And I know you never saw, but yeah, I always hold that in my heart. And I appreciate what you do for women in the platform, and especially when you're doing the body positivity posts about loving yourself. For me, it was something that wasn't so seen, especially as a woman who is a professional. You're an officer, but you're out here encouraging women to love their bodies, you know, the softer elements of things. All of those things shape people who are watching. So right back at you. I'm inspired by you too.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I have a question, Mandisa, about you saying you do meditation. When you started your meditation, did you start when you were in the military, experiencing the issues that you were facing, or was that way before that, or after? And how has meditation helped you progress?
Yes, I started meditation when I was in the military. I don't know if Dad remembers, but I was actually a very awkward teenager. I was a very awkward teenager.
And when you're young,
some of the things that were vices I took with me into adulthood, and they were the first things that got hit when I was in the military. Those pain points were weaknesses that people were able to poke and create disbelief or self-doubt, or to try and detract me from my path. So by meditating, it wasn't only to do a stress relief, but it was also to just get in touch with my inner self. I knew that there was something in us that, as people, we're grounded, we're rooted. It's something spiritual that helps us stand up and be heard. And when I was seeking that, something was telling me to get down and pray. But the act of praying then opened itself up and became meditation, because I found that I wanted to stay on the ground and continue. So what I also then started to do was to listen to frequencies. And the moment I got frequencies, then I was able to get certain insights. Maybe I would get an impulse to do something and it would answer a question that I was having. Or maybe I was feeling a certain weakness and I would be given a courage to speak up or to stand up. So meditation is not just a stress release, it's actually a spiritual practice to help me look for direction, but also to build protection and to attract those, maybe attract opportunities to do what we need to do. Yeah.
And do they teach meditation in the military on a whole, like in general, or is it just individual, like your individual self? Do they allow that in the military? Because I know it's very new, but it's a topic that's very widely being discussed at the moment because of mental health. And that's why I'm asking the questions so much about meditation. But I was just keen to know if the military have implemented this sort of forms for stress relief or any other forms.
Not really meditation. We do a lot of physical stuff. We're always encouraged, especially at our squadron, we're always encouraged to do something physical, not only for fitness, but for your well-being, because it's challenging. The emotions stay in your body and they can manifest themselves in other ways. One thing that the military or our specific field, aviation, taught us is visualization. For me, that is quite a powerful tool that came across as dry flying. Sit down, visualize what you're going to do, visualize what you're going to touch. If there is an emergency, what am I going to be looking at? What indications? What am I smelling? What am I feeling? Visualization is actually a very powerful tool, because once you have been there in the mind, the moment that you're there in the physical, you've been there already. You know, the moment you experience that, the experience unveils itself in reality, you have been there already. But for them, it was something for training and it's for exercise. However, it actually is a tool that we can use in our
everyday
life. Yes. And the power of when I sit down in front of the camera, I'm going to say this and this, and I'm going to visualize. It's creating that person or projecting that person to be there at that moment. So when the moment comes together, you've been there already. So that for me is a powerful tool. But meditation as an act or as a practice at work, not so much.
Okay. Yes, no, the visualization is a great technique, but it's also great for just everyday life, for people in general, if take you places. So that's very interesting. Thank you. Anyone who'd like to share anything else or ask Mandisa any more questions?
Okay.
Elizabeth, I can't hear you. Okay, I got you now. You just need to speak a bit louder.
Okay. No, I just wanted to thank you. It was such an interesting and inspiring story you told, and I'm really impressed about all the different stories that I hear that are so different to my life. So thank you very much, and keep on doing that. And I can always learn a lot of the different speeches I hear. Really, thank you very much. And
thank you very much, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Right. Anybody else before we wrap it up?
I think I just have one more comment or question. I think I want to ask, so when you're speaking about, to take you back, like the imposter syndrome, and just those struggles. So I just sort of want to know, what did you like sort of tap into, or what helped you sort of own those spaces and like less self-doubt? Do you know what I mean? Like, where did you draw that from, or what helped you in that?
So I spoke about the wanting to become physically strong. So for me, that was part of taking my power. By becoming fit and running faster, I saw myself running faster than the boys. I was able to do more sit-ups than the boys. I was able to like see the physical not be a limitation. Now I'm able to carry and pick up a man and run with him. That was empowering. So I always, if there was an element of self-doubt, I would remind myself that I am built differently, but what I'm capable of is not different, because I can still run faster than the boys. So I just used my physical to help empower me in that sense.
So basically breaking your own boundaries, your own belief system.
Yes, always having a baseline that you can always say, you know, if everything else goes wrong, I ran faster than him.
Good for you.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, but also just want to say, listening to you today has been great. I mean, you know, I'm like your number one fan in life. But so
Thank
this,
you.
so this is just sort of just also sort of colored in the picture a bit more and added just so much more. And yeah, so thanks so much for this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? We're done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mandisa. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for taking your time to do this presentation for us. Unfortunately, not a lot of people could attend, but I will be putting it up on our YouTube, and I will send you the link. And I know that it will inspire many more out there. You're already doing a great job at that, and with your mentoring. And thank you. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Ivana. Thank you, everyone. Stay blessed.
All the best, and take care.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Ivana, thanks
Bye.
again for organizing this, Ivana.
No worries, Laura. Thanks to Mandisa for accepting.
Same.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.